I get the question all the time, do I need a receiver for a surround sound setup? And that's kind of a complicated question, because in a general sense, if you want a traditional surround sound system where you can pick out your front speakers, pick out your rear speakers, have ceilings, upward firing speakers, then yes, you'll need a receiver because that allows you to specifically connect these different speakers to those zones or channels, what we would call them. So if you have a front left, front right, center, you can individually pick up those speakers and connect them to the receiver. So yes, you do need a receiver for a surround sound setup like that, with a lot of flexibility and a lot of, we have the ability to kind of change out things a little bit. To go a little bit into how a receiver works, essentially it takes all of the incoming signals from media devices. So you have an Xbox, PlayStation 4, Fire TV, Apple TV, Blu-ray player, whatever. All those are going to connect HDMI into the receiver, or the audio video receiver. Then it's going to output the video via HDMI out to a TV, projector, or some other type of display device. Then you'll have the audio, which is outputted to those connected speakers through the different channels. And that receiver does all the audio processing, the surround sound decoding, and it sends the specific bits of information to each speaker, and that's how you can create a full surround sound environment. The receiver does this all automatically through the processing inside of it. Now let's move on to soundbars. And how can a soundbar possibly provide surround sound audio? Well, there's two different ways really. I explained this in one of my other videos, but basically a soundbar can emulate or simulate surround sound audio with the front speakers by angling them slightly. The main issue with this is if you have a very open room where the audio can't bounce off the walls, then this really isn't going to work well for you. If you have a 5.1 channel soundbar, then the audio may have front speakers that are kind of angled at 45 degrees, and what they're trying to do is send that audio, have it bounce off of walls, then bounce into your ears where it sounds like it's coming from behind you, but in all reality it's coming from the front. Now the issue with this is, like I said, if you have a very open room, that's not going to work for you. Then there are other soundbars that actually have wireless surround sound speakers, and they typically connect with a cable to a subwoofer. Sometimes they connect directly to the wall and they just independently are wireless to the soundbar. If they're connected to the subwoofer, then typically they receive the power and signal from the subwoofer, and the subwoofer wirelessly connects to the soundbar. I know that's kind of confusing, but it's typically how most systems work now. Now, where soundbars have really started to take over the game is that they've started including HDMI inputs on the soundbar itself. And that's where a soundbar is essentially replacing a receiver altogether. The soundbar does the surround sound audio decoding, the processing, and it's sending out the video signals, and then the soundbar itself is actually playing the audio. So that's where soundbars have really started to replace receivers in a lot of homes now. And then you see more and more soundbars or soundbar manufacturers starting to add in the rear wireless speakers. It's becoming more and more common. However, on some of the older units, you really don't have a lot of options. So let's go over a few examples of those. First off, you have the Sonos Playbar, the Sonos Beam, or the Sonos Playbase. And those are actually, you can add in the Sonos Play 1 or Sonos Play 5 as wireless surround speakers. And that's all done wirelessly through Sonos' system. One that I have in my living room is the Nakamichi Shockwave Pro. That is a 7.1.4 soundbar where we have 5 channels in the soundbar itself and then 2 wireless rear speakers and a subwoofer. Both those speakers connect to the subwoofer and the subwoofer wirelessly connects to the soundbar. So that's what I have in my living room, and it's a really great system. There are some audio delays with it. So that's something you kind of have to factor in a little bit with soundbar systems, is that soundbars are going to have a slight delay in getting that audio from the front to the rear, especially if there's some obstructions or it's a much further distance. So you may have to mess with that system just a little bit to try and get the audio delay as minimal as possible to where you don't notice it or there's no connection interruptions. Bose has a very interesting setup with their surround speakers. They have these small little, I forget the name of them, I'll include it on the screen here, but they have these speakers that you can purchase separately, and then they connect wirelessly to a few of their different soundbar models. So similar in how Sonos is set up, where they have the Sonos Playbar, the Sonos Base, or the Sonos Beam, that those Sonos wireless speakers connect to any of those soundbars. Well, the same thing with Bose. Bose has the SoundTouch 300, the SoundTouch 700, the Soundbar 700, I think, as well. They have quite a few soundbars that these wireless speakers are capable of connecting to. I'll include all this on the screen just to make it easier for you because I don't have it right off the top of my head. So with this, we have 3 companies that are really pushing forward with wireless surround sound. Vizio's doing the same thing where they're starting to have a few of their soundbars come with it. Not a ton of them, but definitely a few. So we're starting to see it more and more, and that's really cool because this is really going to change the whole home entertainment section of audio, just because a receiver limited a lot of people to their setups. If you had a very open living room or you had a very unique setup, getting the wires to the locations you needed was the #1 problem for most people. But now with wireless audio, like, this is really changing, and it makes it so much easier for the normal person who doesn't know how to run all these wires. The normal person can just go buy a soundbar system, install it, and within 30 minutes to an hour, they have full surround sound audio. And that's just crazy because years ago, we never would have thought this would happen. Now, I want to take a second to talk about some of the older soundbars where there is no option to add in surround sound speakers to them. There are a couple ways to add in surround sound speakers now. I actually have a video coming out soon. If it's out already, I'll have a link to it. But basically, you can add in surround sound speakers to a soundbar with a very particular setup. Basically, the soundbar just needs a digital optical out or a digital optical input to it, and you'll be able to add in a small set of wireless surround speakers. So if that's something you're interested in, if the video's not out yet, go ahead, subscribe. Even if it's not, go ahead, subscribe, and then I'll have a link to that in the description so you can watch it. It's really interesting. It's really cool how we get around this. But that's really all I have for this video. I think I explained why you don't need a receiver for surround sound setups anymore. I'll definitely include all the soundbars I mentioned in this video in the description, just so you can take a look at them and you can really see, like, okay, this is what a surround sound system looks like with soundbars. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. I'm always monitoring that, answering questions that anyone has. Make sure you like the video if you learned something, if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel for new videos. We'll see you next time. Bye.